Hey, I'm Sam Peterson, nearly award-winning author of Trunky, Transgender Junkie, a memoir of institutionalization and Southern hospitality. In 2020, I went through a rough time. My mom died, and then a good friend died, and then COVID hit, and I found myself in a really dark place. I was actually like suicidal. And when I came out of it, I had this idea to ask my friends and others what keeps them going? How do they survive? How do they thrive? And this is why I live. Today I'm speaking with North Carolina musician and writer Molly McGinn. Molly is no stranger to the depression and inner warfare that seems to come with the artist's terrain. So let's welcome Molly McGinn. Hi, Molly McGinn. This is my friend and North Carolina musician, Molly McGinn, who's also a content creator and a writer. But I know you for like almost 15 years now,
Oh my
I
gosh.
guess.
Yeah.
And we've collaborated together. You've been an inspirer, and we've been through a we've been through a lot of interesting times together.
We've had some phone calls, you and I.
Indeed, we have. We have. And we've made some interesting art together. So, um, you know, I was thinking of you as somebody who's not necessarily, got the blues all the time. Maybe you do, but I think of you as like a dark night of the soul person.
100%. Okay, tell me what you mean by that, because I would say yes. Like, I didn't know. I would say I'm more Dark Night of the Soul than I am depressed.
That's
um,
exactly, yeah,
on the
yeah,
nose.
yeah. Yeah, I don't see you as a depressive, but you do go through like these really intense times, which I totally relate to, that are like when we say darker night of the soul, they're actually like months. They're grueling,
Yeah.
deep, chthonic thrums of darkness for months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about a lot of that when I was, just like journaling this morning and thinking about this conversation. And um, I don't know how I got through. I'm going to start crying. I don't know how I got through a lot of that. I don't know.
Hmm.
When I just nights, so many nights curled up in a ball, just praying, 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 praying,
Hmm. Hmm.
um,
Can
for
you
the feeling to go away.
can you tell us what precipitated that? Like what was the catalyst for this particular dark
I
night that
mean, loneliness has always just been a really strong, like I'm actually able to understand that it was loneliness. Like, and I, I Well, no, I mean, I knew it was kind of a loneliness and a longing for just to feel a sense of belonging. I've always felt like I'm on the outside of of everything, and a lot of that, a lot of that I really love. I celebrate as my sort of Amelia Earhart kind of independence. Like, if it wasn't for that feeling, I wouldn't be able to sort of go on a lot of the limbs that I go on, I think. But the flip side of that is, just like coming home sometimes from shows at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and opening the door and knowing that there's nobody there, and
hmm
knowing that there's no amount of praying, there's no amount of wishing, there's no amount of dating, you know, that could make that go away. Oh my God,
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, I as a trans person and a depressive, I really identify with that because I from a very early age felt conspicuously different, and some of that I recognize now as like gender stuff. Like I really wasn't seen by other people for who I was. And I didn't have an understanding of that. And I would say also as um, an alcoholic addict, like that is a sort of a textbook response to being alive, is just feeling completely isolated and unique, and not in a good way. But as you say, like, it's also the best thing in my life. Like, it drives me creatively. It's what gives me joy. Yeah. So it's tough.
It is tough.
Yeah.
But I will say I don't feel that loneliness anymore. I don't feel it in the way that I used to. And I don't know what happened. I was trying to think about that, like what was the event. Um,
Well, I would suggest to you that time plus prayer plus doing all this work that you've been doing, like, you've been reaching out to people, you've been talking about it, like, nothing, it's not like nothing happened, like a whole bunch of things happened, Malls.
well, the other thing, and I remember I was having a conversation with my mom, and this was when I was really going through a couple of years, and I used to just hide it. I mean, I wouldn't talk about it. And then I started talking about it with my family members and just saying, you know what? I'm depressed. And, I didn't say dark night of the soul or anything, but um, I just remember saying, I'm depressed, and that's actually okay. Like, how about we just not look at this as something that's terrible and just like pull up a chair for it more or less and like make it comfortable. And
Mm.
there was a lot of times when like a couple things that I remember the first time I held my own hand. Like I literally reached and held my own hand, and I thought that, and I was like, oh my, I had never really felt, because I'll reach out and hold someone else's hand when I know that they're struggling, and I know that that contact transfer something, but I'd never really grabbed my own hand and kind of did that. And I think that's, I can't say that was the tipping point.
Why did
But
you do
also,
that?
what?
Why did you do that? Like, I've never done that. That sounds amazing.
Oh my gosh, you can just do it right now,
I'm
you
gonna
know?
do it right now.
Like just to feel what
Oh,
that feels
wow.
like when you think of all the times that you've held your hand out to someone to hold them through something that was really difficult, and that same love that you put to someone else to actually intentionally give it to yourself is kind of
Oh my
a
God.
really beautiful feeling.
How
Yeah.
did you learn to do that?
I don't know, I
You
think
did you
just
just do it?
desperation. Yeah, because I'm very imaginative, I guess, and so I need those. I need the theater of that, number one, and then
And the reality of that, like,
mhm,
it's tactile, it's tangible.
yeah, I did it actually recently. I was in a getting a breast biopsy, and the
Yay.
machine malfunctioned while I was on
Oh
the
shit.
table, and it was nuts. But I remember laying on the side there and just you know, and like my taking my loving self and holding the hand that I've had since I was a child. It's like this is the body, this is the hand that's going to hold me and has held me in my darkest moments. And like, for instead of feeling lonely about that, I felt so comforted by it. And I don't want to ever use that to for a shield of independence. I don't want to be fiercely independent. I want healthy, loving relationships with other people. Um, but I'll be the one to comfort myself, you know. So
Yeah.
just practicing that.
Right. Right. Like, there's a long time, I think, that we spend in adulthood looking for other people to comfort us. And I think, particularly as people who go through dark nights or dark lives, we have learned that we have to comfort ourselves. Like, there's nobody out there, you know.
But that's
you
not what
know?
we're taught, though. And I feel like there's so much that has to be, so many paradigms that have to be shifted. Like, that's not the narrative that we see in a lot of places. I don't feel like the narrative that I always kind of, growing up in churches and school, the socially accepted ones were coupled up, and you know, socially accepted things where you got married and you had a family and it looked like this, um and to be anything other than that was to sort of be an outcast. And what I'm really finding actually is that this place that I've been propelled into, that is actually what, like, I want to shift the paradigm. Like, what if I stopped telling myself that story, and what if I started like letting myself walk into this very authentic story of my own, which is, you know partnership with friends, that friendship and platonic friendship are the most sustaining relationships, and the romantic relationships have been the most fleeting. And so to shift my attention towards nurturing that platonic agape love, you know
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
my life, and feeling held by that. But I just don't feel like that's something that, I mean, it starts with fairy tales and it starts with all kinds of things. But I think that's what I love about you so much is, through your transgender journey, you're like, that's page one, like, shift the paradigm. What I mean? Um,
Yes.
like, write it yourself, and the amount of bravery and authenticity and loneliness that comes with that, you know?
It is an isolate journey for sure. Nobody can go through it with you.
But I remember I was watching this movie with my friend, actually Molly Miller. I don't remember what movie it was. It was like actually an awful movie. It was so incredibly stupid. But there was this one scene where these like two older women, and they were in their late 60s, early 70s, and they're walking and they're arm in arm, and they were like, "Do you remember when we used to think romantic love was anything? Like, was everything?" And they were like, "Ugh, what a relief to be free from that." What a relief to be free from that, like, daily
Mm.
um beacon, or just like thinking that was
The
any kind
it.
of pursuit. Yeah, and it went like, and it never occurred to me that someday I would wake up and it would stop. That would just stop being the drive.
I think also for heterosexual cis women, like that narrative is really powerful. Like you are bombarded with that narrative from day one, that you're supposed to find this man and, there's this dreamy thing that happens and, patriarchy and misogyny and, boom, there you are, like feeling isolated and alone because this fairy tale thing hasn't happened for you or whatever. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it's really true. Like I have seen my friends suffer from
Yeah,
that, like truly suffer.
yeah, we got to stop that.
I know, right? It's it's just dumb.
It is dumb.
Not the
It's hurtful.
suffering, but the narrative is, it's dumb.
Well, and I think it's deadly.
It
I
is deadly.
I do think it's deadly. I don't know. Um, a woman that I knew took her own life, and um, I remember listening to her talk a couple months before she did, and she was talking about this relationship that wasn't working, and she was like sitting in bed and they were both watching TV, and she was just like, I'd never felt so alone in all my life, and what I was like sitting next to this person.
Mm.
And I don't know what ultimately led to her making that decision, but I do know that she felt constantly mismatched, and what if the narrative or the paradigm was actually shifted, that the you know can you imagine like watching movies, or if like we sent each other if we send each other cards, like now it's like, oh, so and so is getting divorced. That's so awful. But what if we were like, so and so is getting divorced? Isn't that great? Or like we sent Christmas cards to each other about our children saying, Molly's still single. Isn't that amazing? Like she hasn't fallen into the trap of, like what if we celebrated that instead?
Mhm.
I don't know.
Well, I would venture to say that loneliness is endemic and that it is the thing that drives most people or many people to suicide or to a dark place. Like, I think that's really common. It's not something that, I mean, I can relate to it intellectually, but I wonder if I feel loneliness, but I just call it something else. Um,
But I don't
because,
know. Well, you put
yeah,
this, but when you put this pandemic on top of all
oh,
that,
for fuck's sake,
it makes it really complicated.
it does really complicate it. For me, like this last time when I was feeling suicidal, I felt a real disappointment in the world. And my belief, my deep optimism about the nature of humanity was tanked. Like with Trump and with the COVID and all that stuff, and seeing people just behave really badly, it really tanked my sense of love and compassion for other people. So that's a kind of loneliness, I think, sort of. And I'm climbing out of that now. Thank God.
What, the great letdown, you mean?
Yeah.
That maybe human nature at its core is not that kind?
Yeah. Or maybe we're just, you know, 50. I thought we were like 49% dumb and 51% good. And now I'm thinking that it's more like 51% dumb and 49% good.
I mean, I think we're all just trying to get better. I really do. And I don't, I guess that's the thing I choose to believe. And we all just have very different ideas about what that looks like. And then, of course, you've got um, a lot of dysfunction and, denial is, I think, the biggest enabler.
Well, getting back to you, Molly McGinn, I saw you doing a lot of stuff to make yourself better or make, find a way to grow out of this, to heal. I think you were looking for a lot of different ways out, and you were talking to friends, and you were being pretty transparent about what was going on with you, at least within your core group. Did any of that stuff help?
Just the spiritual path is the only thing that's really worked for me. Um, because I honestly can't, when I look back on my 30s, all of my 30s and really most of my 40s, it was constant chronic pain.
Mm.
Uh, and really just agony. And I think I'm kind of built in a way where I just got really good at hiding it and never really talked about it. But the times I would feel relief from it was when I was either doing something that scared me or made me nervous, or um, when I decided like to do a record or start a band or go on tour. When I decided to like, okay, I'm so stinking depressed, but if I'm going to be depressed, I might as well use the time and do something that really scares me. Um, and
And
for
that's
me,
like a
that's always,
motivator, right?
yeah, I mean, yeah. It was the
Because
only way
like,
I could kind of stop the mental obsession. The only way I could really stop the mental obsession of the loneliness and the depression would to be to just completely change the thought from depression to fear. Like I'm afraid I can't do this. But I remember being in some pretty difficult episodes, and I would literally take my guitar and go downtown and sit on the street and busk. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of
Wow.
that is just because it would be a break, and it would be a kind of a break in the low energy depression to sort of the the higher like frequency of confronting a fear.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been something that works. Even doing something as stupid as risking falling in love again, even in dating, and um trying you know trying to do that sometimes. But I also would spend a lot of times where I would say, okay, I'm just going to drive down a new road. I'm going to take a different way home. I'm going to go out, I'm going to go in the car, and I'm going to get lost. Like
Mm-hmm.
literally, I mean, nobody gets lost anymore because of GPS, but I'm going to take a different way.
Yeah,
I want to see a different road. And I was literally trying to carve new neural networks in my brain. Like
I
I was
get that.
literally trying to expose myself to new sensory experiences that could help me um,
Wow.
kind of snap out of it. But I can tell you though, with a, a lot of when I look back at the woman that kind of got me through all that, I don't know how I don't know how I did it, because it was just constant, relentless, numbing pain. But you know, music and writing songs and reaching out, or like reaching up to people that I knew were maybe more talented than me or knew more than me, and asking them to, like, taking that chance to, like, will you work with me, or will you play music with me? And taking those risks would provide cracks, like
Mm-hmm.
in the in the concrete of depression sometimes.
Yeah, dude, because when I just a few weeks ago when I came up with this idea to do this Why Live series,
Mm-hmm.
I did it because I was so depressed, and the conditions that led to my breakdown, some months ago haven't changed. The conditions are still the same, so how do I get out of this? And the idea of doing this sort of creative gesture or whatever really pushed me out of it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not entirely, but enough to give me some hope. And yeah, so that for me, that creative gesture is so powerful. Like if I can get doing and activate that, whatever that is, that creativity, like that just sends me.
Well, so Jeff Tweedy talks a lot about that a lot in his book, How to Write
Who
One Song.
talks?
Jeff Tweedy,
Oh, Jeff Tweedy. Uh-huh.
in How to Write One Song, he talks a lot about the companionship of an idea. That once you have an
Mm,
idea, you're no longer alone. It's like having this
wow.
friend at all times, and you're.
It is.
Mm. And while you were talking too, it kind of reminded me that it wasn't just creative projects. Sometimes it was like, oh, okay, I'm going to get a longboard skateboard, or I'm going to start paddleboarding, or um I'm going to go to Nicaragua and climb a volcano, which I had no business of doing and I will never do again. But um like I'm just going to do things that, like, I'm going to entertain every notion. Whatever
Mm,
whatever intuition or idea that kind of that drifts and says, "Wouldn't you like to do this?" Um
mm-hmm.
and it's not chasing squirrels for me. It literally is like, it's just strategy to survive. Like for a while, remember, I was in that fireworks phase where I was going to South Carolina. We went on a fireworks run, I think,
Yeah, we
you and
did.
I. And at that time in my life, I needed to go out onto country roads and set off illegal fireworks. And because I needed the explosion, and I needed that shake and that rattle and the
Mm,
gunpowder. Like, I've had so many different phases like that.
Mm-hmm.
And right now it's dirt bikes. I really want a Honda dirt bike and I want a Chevy custom van.
That just doesn't surprise me in the least. I
I
mean,
don't, and I don't
you are the
have to
woman
get
who
it.
you bought that like gigantic truck
Love that truck.
and have been toting around this trailer. How long that's been going on? Like a year or
For
two,
a
so.
year now. And that was one of those things too, when I finally stopped looking for the damn house
Mm-hmm.
and really owned that this is what I wanted to do. And I wanted to, and I need to live around a lot of trees. I need to live in a way where I'm surrounded by outdoors, and I need to live in a way that allows me where I'm affirmed for um the way that I live. So like I have an autoimmune disorder and have always chosen different foods, and I have a different level of self-care that I require, and I always felt that like that was another thing that kind of made me other. Like I would, I'd get tired and I would need to go to bed, um and for the ragers, those who rage into the night, that's like unacceptable. And I always feel a little bit weird because I some of the food choices that I make, but then like here, I I don't necessarily feel that like oddballness. It's like I can make those choices and I can go, I mean, I live the most luxurious life. I run down to the creek and skinny dip in a cold water creek, and
Wow.
there's nothing more exhilarating than like breasts up to the stars in a hot tub. I don't think I'm alone in that, but I mean, I would choose that than living in a city or feeling the need to be surrounded by a lot of people. Like that makes me happy in a way that I didn't think ever would.
Mm.
I remember telling a mentor of mine, don't let me move out to Stokes County. Don't let me do it. No matter what I say, don't let me do it. And I'm so glad that I didn't listen to that, because I go to bed every night just so grateful. Like the gratitude is just,
Wow.
and I keep thinking back to the nights that I spent in these other beds, my own, spent in other beds trying to kind of like make things work. And it's I got this trailer because it has a window over the bed, and when I lay in bed and look up at night, I just see nothing but stars, and I've never felt
Wow.
more complete or whole. And I was scared to do that. My financial advisor, I can't believe I even have one, but my financial advisor dropped me because I didn't buy a house because I got a trailer, and it was scary as hell pulling this
Wow.
thing down, like pulling this thing down to Louisiana and pulling into somebody's house, some artist that I met on Instagram, to go down there to chase a song. I have to do things like that
Mm-hmm.
to stay alive.
Yeah.
Um, and now I'm getting to the point now where it's not so much about staying alive. It's just like I want to see how it ends, because I know now that like almost 18 years of 19 years of a lot of pain, which is now abated. There's a part of me that does say, oh, this too really does pass. It really does pass. And so, what would I be missing if I checked out, you know,
Mm-hmm.
ahead of schedule? And I don't want to miss that. But I still really do struggle with when I go to art or go to song. I'm still in a place where it's like I still question, is that good? Does anybody care?
Well, and that comes with its own hellish voices too. Creating always comes with that. The like RuPaul calls it the inner saboteur, right? The voices and the I'm not good enough and this is stupid. Which I think you and I are probably better now at handling than we were like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Well,
But
it's
there's
better.
this.
I'm like, who cares? I'm just gonna do it
Yeah, who
anyway.
cares? Yeah,
That's
exactly.
not
Like, and
true. I'm totally
the
lying.
impulse is so strong too, like to do these things, like go, move to Stokes County or to do this uh podcasty situation, like
Mhm.
that impulse overrides the shitty voice. And I wish I had that for my depression, like some kind of voice that would override that.
Well,
Eventually it does
what's the
shift, but
one thing you should, what is the one thing you tell yourself you shouldn't do? Other than, like, what's that? What's your fear?
what's
What's your
my
biggest,
fear?
what's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is growing old without money and having to live by the courtesy of the state and being old.
That's a big one.
That's a fear. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And, this is a fear of someone who's literally been homeless like numerous times. I have probably been through the worst in that regard, but it's still something that just terrifies me. Maybe because I have been through it.
Yeah.
And doing it like at an old age, like, oh God, um, that's just really scary to me.
Hmm.
So we shall see.
Well, what's your biggest creative fear?
Oh, to not have anybody see my work and to just be unseen and unheard. I think, I was talking with Thaddeus for another interview, and I think, and you share this too, we all make work that demands an audience. We don't just make work for ourselves. Like, I need an audience.
Hmm.
That's part of my judge, right? Like, I'm not going to make a story up about how I will do art for art's sake. I mean, I surely would, but I surely wouldn't like it as much as having someone see my work and participate in it and get, some feedback and clapping, and I need that.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a unique place to be a performer, right? And to put yourself out there, like, it's very bold.
It feels so stupid. It feels so, like, and I've been thinking about this a lot because, especially tonight, like playing this show tonight, and it feels so selfish to stand up there and be like, listen to me. But a lot of these songs, almost every song I've ever written has come from a place of me trying not to die. Like
Yeah.
of
Wow.
me literally trying to climb out of if I'm gonna feel this way, then damn it, I'm gonna make it mean something. And if I'm gonna
Yes.
go through this loss, then I'm gonna take this raw material and turn it into something um,
Yes.
beautiful, right? So
Yes.
when I remind myself that, like, I am up there in defiance of my demons, because they do, like that disease and those demons that want to take you down, that I'm literally standing up there and flipping that saboteur, the bird, like the
Mm-hmm.
hardest bird. And then my hope and my prayer is that somebody out there gets emboldened by that. And particularly, and now because I'm getting older, I'm almost demanding it because I want to see more women in a pro aging way,
Mm-hmm.
uh, doing it with the same, like, electricity that a young woman does, because I'm so hungry for for um for influences like that, to
Well,
see.
and you've been really out there, like putting that out there, participating in that by giving other women a platform. Like, I really admire that. And I have to say, you know, whatever inspires your songwriting, like, you are an incredible songwriter, and the people need to hear it because You are truly an amazing artist.
And I thought I heard a song out my window all night long, but the ravens look like wrens to me now. Oh, the ravens look like wrens to me now. And I tried to make him go by rapping on my window, but the ravens look like wrens to me now.
And yeah,
Thank you, Sam.
yeah.
Thank you so much. But
Mm-hmm.
well, this year too, the last couple of years have been really rutty. I mean, I've been in ruts. And so I had to start taking lessons and I started learning different instruments. And when I look back on it, I just think to myself, God, were you running from yourself? Were you just running from writing? And I have to say no, because it shook everything up. Like it really did. It shook things up. Um,
Yeah, we need to trust this impulse and this instinct that's gotten us here because I do that too. I second guess what I'm doing and I'm like, am I hiding? Am I running? Am I,
right.
somehow and usually it's towards growth.
Well, yeah, and I think it's all and again it's just like cutting a new path, like taking a new road. And I was talking to a
Mm.
friend of mine, but apparently the brain loves shortcuts and negative thoughts are a shortcut. It's energy
Oh,
saving. To just go from zero to certain death is a very short path and your brain starts to just wear
dig
that
that.
path down because it doesn't want to do the work of clearing new trails. So
Oh,
every
wow.
time I like gratitude or try something new or try to learn something new or seek that shot of adrenaline, not in terms of like risky sexual behavior adrenaline, but like risk a different kind of adrenaline, although that can be fun too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like an adrenaline shot from learning something new or being in something where I don't know or have control over the outcome. Um, that's when I feel relief.
Yeah. So before I let you go, Malls, you mentioned your spiritual path and your spirituality and how that is really
Mm-hmm.
a saving grace, as it were. Like there's a lot of grace for you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess I've been doing a lot of writing about childhood and my teenage years, and what keeps coming up is this like very bold, strong kind of presence that was always pulling me through that. Um, that always was writing songs even though I felt like an outcast. That was always starting bands even though I felt like I had no business. And like and I'm so like intrigued about, well, where was that coming from and who was that and what was that energy? And man, like let's let her out more. And you know there's that, and then just always kind of looking back and seeing where there were so many times when I should have, things, particularly relationships, that I wanted so desperately that were carefully swept out the door. And when I look back on all of that and feel nothing but relief that those messes, or that those were removed so that I could have a new experience, I'm looking back on it with a profound sense of trust that I've just never had before.
Hmm.
Um, and then the other time that I have felt the most empowered as an artist was when I did Postcards from the Swamp, and that was completely a spiritual project. I had no job, no band, no money, cut up all my credit cards. I was living on unemployment and determined to pay things down, and just trusted that every day it was going to come my way, whatever it was. But just continuing to sort of dream and put it out there. And I was in a lot of financial insecurity. I was a couple $1,000 in debt. Um, and just doing that one day at a time, and not and getting clear about what my dreams and what my goals were, instead of being in the, the vagueness of denial. Um, was a total game shifter for me. And it's because of it. And I remember for the first time, because I used to feel a shattering loneliness every time after I finished a show. I mean, shattering loneliness.
Wow.
And
Wow.
shame and regret the entire day afterwards for like, why did you do it like that? God, you sounded awful. Da, 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 da. After I did Postcards from the Swamp and sat down, I remember sitting on my back step at that house in Summit Avenue, and I was smoking a cigarette, and I was still wearing my pink skirt and my denim shirt, and I felt a sense of peace, a profound sense of peace that I had never experienced before. And it was because I completely trusted something other than myself to allow myself to be carried through that. And I really try to remember that, that because I like to hide myself under other people's projects, or let me get behind you, or let me get behind this, and well, we can do this as a band, and no, I can't do this unless I have unless this is here, or this. No, I have everything that I need. Literally have everything that I need. And can I just trust that? I don't always pull that off. I mean, it's a very clumsy dance for me. My dating profile handles were clumsy ballerina. Clumsy ballerina. And I'm okay with that. I would rather look a fool by trying than to never be seen because I'm hiding or isolating.
It takes a lot of courage.
Well, I am seeking a greater level of authenticity. I want to know who this is. Like, I want to know her so bad that, the punk that got me through Beaver Dam and got me through all these things. Like, I want this woman to come out. I want to know who she is, because I've kind of been, I've been kind of burying her a little bit. But I heard someone talk about this. I think I told you about this, but I heard this like 70-year-old woman say, she was just like, I can't wait to see who I am. Like, I just can't wait to continue to see who I become. And that's worth living for, like having that own curiosity about, how is she going to, that's what I want. I want her.
And I thought I heard a song out my window all night long, but the ravens look like wrens to me now. Oh, the ravens look like wrens to me now. And I tried to make him go by rapping on my window, but the ravens look like wrens to me now. Oh, the ravens look like wrens to me now. And I know birds don't sing when the night is falling, but the ravens sing like wrens to me now. Oh, the ravens sing like wrens to me now. And I could sing to you after all that we've been through, but the ravens sing like wrens with me now. Oh, the ravens sing like wrens with me now. And she terms in no uncertain words, but the ravens talk like wrens to me now. Oh, the ravens talk like wrens to me now. So I laid in my bed going over all she said, but the ravens talk like wrens with me now. Oh, the ravens talk like wrens with me now. like Saint Stephen in the fray. And the ravens pray like wrens with me now. And the ravens pray like wrens with me now. And I hold out my hand like Saint Kevin would command. And the ravens pray like wrens with me now. And the ravens pray like wrens with me now. And the ravens pray like wrens with me.
Yeah, how's she going to emerge? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you had to sum up your, I mean, that's wow. That sounds like the summation of why you kick the can around and stick around to
Yeah,
find
let's see
out.
how it turns out.
Yeah,